This was the week where we learned once and for all that vote blue no matter who is just a senseless phrase that rhymes, kind of like hickory dickory dock, Joe Manchin is a cock. Because, of course, Democrats in the Senate are the ones who, despite having the majority, are holding back progress. This week, after months of dancing around the issue of reforming the filibuster, dancing around the stalled infrastructure package, dancing around the voting rights bill, Joe Manchin finally came out of the closet. It is Pride. With an op-ed that just says, nope, he doesn't believe in the For the People Act to enshrine voting rights. What does the Halloween mask version of Sean Hannity's reason being for not wanting to pass that bill that would greatly improve access to the ballot box, increase election security, reform campaign finance, and stop partisan gerrymandering? According to him, it's too partisan. He writes, Democrats in Congress have proposed a sweeping election reform bill called the For the People Act. This more than 800-page bill has garnered zero Republican support. Why? Are the very Republican senators who voted to impeach Trump because of actions that led to an attack on our democracy unwilling to support actions to strengthen our democracy? Yes. Are these same senators whom in my party applauded for their courage now threats to the Are these same senators who many in my party applauded for their courage now threats? Is this hang on. Now I'm reading this wrong. Now now threats to the very democracy we seek to protect? Yes. The truth, I would argue, is that voting and election reform that is done in a partisan manner will all but ensure partisan divisions continue to deepen. What?
I think we really got to stop politicizing voting. Isn't that what he said at one point? We got to stop politicizing voting.
We got to stop politicizing. This is exactly it. It is this abusive relationship with Republicans that are it's just well, if I you're already in the whole, it is an abusive relationship. You're just get out of this abusive relationship. You're well, if I leave, then I will get hit again. It's no, that's not how it's going to work. Sorry. I don't mean to give this domestic abuse situation, but that's how it feels. What is already happening currently in this country is incredibly partisan. Has Manchin not taken a look around and seen all the partisan ways that Republicans are trying to roll back voting rights, restrict early voting, restrict mail-in voting, restrict the number of ballot boxes in communities of color, stop voting on Sunday mornings after church explicitly in counties in Texas where they know African Americans who get out of church are going to go vote?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. What? So anyway, so he's asking these rhetorical questions that he knows the answers to. And then he continues, and here we go. Here's the rub. I believe that partisan voting legislation will destroy the already weakened binds of our democracy. And for that reason, I will vote against the For the People Act. Furthermore, I will not vote to weaken or eliminate the filibuster. For as long as I have the privilege of being a U.S. Senator, I will fight to represent the people of West Virginia, to seek bipartisan compromise, no matter how difficult, and to develop the political bonds that end divisions and help unite the country we love.
I feel like he doesn't get I'm sure he actually does get it, but chooses not to acknowledge it. You can't bring us together. This country's no, you can't bring us together. One side doesn't believe people of color deserve anything, or anyone who hasn't, pulled themselves up by their bootstrap to make themselves a billionaire. And then the other side, I mean, they're not necessarily doing their best, but they have some semblance of pretending they are. So it's I don't know what do you think this is, Joe Manchin?
Yeah. Have you take a look around, buddy? You see the shards of glass on the ground from when there was a insurrection in the Capitol? Yeah. Notice how nobody wants to be a Capitol police officer? Yeah. That's where we are. I don't think getting rid of the filibuster is gonna divide us anymore. In fact, it'll actually get stuff done. But of course, Manchin hates the For the People Act. He prefers the For the Donors Act, which is just the act that he's been pulling off for the last few months. The most ridiculous part of this, Anna, I don't know if you saw, is that in the same op-ed, he's like, well, we can pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And then, but like the For the People Act is bad. Okay, the only difference, in fact, they're actually different pieces of legislation. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act basically restores the Voting Rights Act, which was gutted by the Supreme Court in 2013 and allowed like all the states that are now rolling back voting rights. It allowed them to do that without, before they had to like, you know, get that checked over by a judge because they've got a history of racist, you know, systemic preventing people from voting. So like they are two different things. Do you think that Republicans would be on board to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act?
Half of them are like, which one was John Lewis?
Yeah, half of them are, yeah, exactly, posting the wrong photo and like, yeah, my colleague John Lewis. Obviously, we're talking about the late Congressman John Lewis, but like, it is, he's always like throwing another bone. Like, well, look, we can pass this bill, but we can't pass the For the People bill. No. He knows you can't pass either of them, not with these Republicans who've already politicized voting because they don't want people to vote. They've been doing it time immemorial, right? Since the founding of this country. Hey, thanks so much for watching the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. And while you're here, why don't you just subscribe to this channel? I promise it'll be good. Promise.